Hey guys, it's your favorite gold miner, prospector, and geologist, Jeff Williams. We're going to go over the biggest mistakes that I see, the most common mistakes that most prospectors make when they're out looking for gold. So whether you're new at this game or you've been doing this for some time, these tips and tricks that I'm about to give you is going to ensure your success every time. I can't tell you how many times I've seen new guys out in the field not doing their research and start digging holes everywhere, not even knowing what type of gold they're looking for. So research is the key. And when I say research, I'm talking about using tools like Google Earth and LiDAR. You'd be amazed what you can find with LiDAR. To find gold, you got to go where it's already been found before. Yes, there's a lot of guys out there that are seasoned pros and they do find new deposits. But for the beginner or for just the recreational gold miner or prospector, I highly recommend go to where it's already been found before. And what you can do is check the old USGS reports. MRDS is another good source, and you can use Google Earth, and then you can look for signs of hand stacking and where their old base camps used to be, and of course all the remnant signs of the prospectors of the day. Now, a lot of you guys out there said, Jeff, we live in an area where there's a dense forest or a lot of vegetation. That's where you're going to use LiDAR. LiDAR is a huge bonus when you want to look at the ground and see what has actually been disturbed from the old timers. Now, a lot of people say, Jeff, I don't have the time or the experience to do LiDAR. That's fine. I'm going to leave a link down below. Now, at the time of this recording, he was making personalized LiDAR maps for a fee. If you really want to get into this, and if you live in an area where there's heavy vegetation, like California or back east, this is the perfect tool. Now, for those folks out there in Australia, I would use GeoView. It's a fantastic site, and a lot of the guys out there like to use that to find areas where the leads are or where the old timers were working the old auriferous gravels. Also, it helps to know the type of gold you're chasing. Is it free mill? Is it refractory or sulfide ore? And is it lode or is it placer? These are things you really need to know before you go out in the field, and be thorough. And when I say thorough, this can take 6 months up to a year of research. And a good example is the place we're in right now. I've done my research. There are lode gold mines up on the hill. I've got this beautiful creek with side tributaries feeding it right down here below all the hard rock mines. This is a perfect place to start sampling. Another issue I see is people not using the proper equipment to go out prospecting. You should have a good gold pan that you're very familiar with, and at least a good 1/4-inch classifier and some good digging tools. I like the Garrett Super Sleuth because it's got these deep riffles in it, and I can move a lot of material really fast, and that's the key to sampling. Now, another common mistake that I see is that they don't know what gold looks like in the pan, and they either get mica in there or they get sulfides in there, and they have no idea what it is, so they think they've got a full pan of gold, and they don't, and it's worthless. Get yourself a small sample of gold and pan it and know what it looks like. Once you see it in the pan, you'll never forget it. And always have a jeweler's loop with you, at least 10 times, like this one. It's not a whistle, it's a jeweler's loop. And the reason why that's important is because sometimes you're going to be in some placer gold that's very fine, sometimes minus 100 or minus 400 mesh, and you're not going to be able to see it with your naked eye. And the reason why that's important is because you're playing detective. You're out here prospecting. You're not gold mining yet. This is just prospecting. You're looking for places that are rich and have high concentrations of gold, so you can bring in your mining equipment later, and then you can focus on the areas that you've already picked out so you can be productive. And keep in mind, this might take you 6 months, a year, 2 years. It takes time because a lot of the good land has already been picked over. And yes, there's still good land out there, and there's still a lot of gold out there. Do you see this? This is bedrock. It's decomposing granite. This is what gold is going to be sitting on if it's traveling down this hill because of erosion. Erosion is what's going to basically break it free from the host vein and bring it down here over thousands, if not millions of years. So you're looking for outcrops of bedrock, especially in these little tiny arroyos and washes. And if you're in the Motherlode country, you're going to be looking for bedrock, which is the perfect place to find gold. And you want bedrock that's rough and craggly, not smooth, because the smooth bedrock is going to allow the gold to flow right out. I've got good bedrock right here, but the problem is I got nothing to catch gold. So if there's any gold that comes down out of this side tributary, guess what? It's just going to keep on flowing all the way down and then get into the flow sand and get down deep. I can either dig in here to sample or I can work my way up. So what I'm going to do is pull samples off the top of the bedrock underneath this little tiny area here, and you can see where I've got quartz and I've got iron. That's a good sign. And I've got hard rock mines up on the hill, and a lot of the gold is more than likely leached out of those hard rock outcroppings or out of their mine dumps and has worked its way down here. You want hard pack. If you find cracks and crevices or arroyos where the material is really loose, chances are there's not going to be good gold there, especially in the Motherlode country, because that means somebody else has got in there and worked out that crevice. You want stuff that's so hard, it feels like cement. That's what you want. That means nobody else has been in there, and your chances of finding incredible gold are 100% better. And look for crevices that run 90 degrees of the water streams or water courses. And places like this where the bedrock is, you can use a whisk broom or one of those little dirt vacs that you can buy at Home Depot or Lowe's, or even a gas-powered backpack. Just, you want to get everything off of this as much as you possibly can whenever you're digging off of bedrock. Fine gold will sit here and you won't be able to get it all. Now, the other mistake I see a lot of new prospectors make when they're out in the field and they're sampling is that when they're panning their samples, they're being too delicate with it. I see them doing this because they're so afraid that the gold is gonna pop out of that pan. I can assure you, I've panned minus 400 mesh gold as hard as I can, and it'll stay in the bottom of the pan. A lot of people have a hard time believing that or understanding it, and you need to shake that pan vigorously because you need to stratify the material. And all that means is you're getting all the heavies to drop to the bottom, all the lights to come up to the top. And once the heavies on the bottom, they're gonna stay there, I'm telling you. And you don't wanna waste all day on a couple of pans when you're out sampling, because that's time you can be using to find other locations. And don't just stay in one spot. If you find gold, you mark it on a map and you go to other locations and sample around that. You might be on the tail of a lead, and you're not always gonna find gold in your samples, but you need to look at the indicators. I've got a lot of bullets, which is good, right up in here. And this is where your jeweler's loop comes in, because I don't see any visible gold with the naked eye. But with this, I might be able to see it. And I got two little tiny pieces of gold at the top mixed in with all that other material, and there is no way you're gonna see it. I'll see if I can take a snapshot of it. I'm gonna mark this on the map that I found gold in this tributary. I'm gonna go to all the other tributaries in the area. I'm gonna do the exact same thing, starting from the bottom, working my way up to the top. And you're going to log in with either your phone or with pen and paper what you found, where you found it, and what it looks like. Is it coarse? Is it smooth? Is it round? Does it have quartz attached to it? All these indicators. You have to be a detective. If you want to find gold, this is how it's done. But if you just go out willy-nilly and start punching holes in the ground, chances are you're not going to find any gold whatsoever. Remember, we're prospectors, we're detectives. We're not gold miners yet. We're just basically trying to follow the clues that Mother Nature left behind so that we can find the richest concentrations of gold. And in this particular side tributary, I've got tons and tons of quartz. That's iron stained, and that's perfect. These types of rocks are good indicator. I've got lots of hematite, iron, I got silicified zones in there. I've got some limonite. This is a good indicator. And this as well. You see this old rusty red hematite stained quartz? This is another good indicator. And this is what I was telling you about, is that you have to know a little bit about a geology. You don't have to be a geology major like me. You just have to get out there and know the basics. What was the gold traveling in? And the basement rock. So that way you can differentiate between the two. You don't need a degree in geology to do this. And if you see rocks you don't understand, look them up. And if you can't find them, get a hold of me and I'll tell you what they are. This is a good example right here. Do you see the bands of iron running through there? That is beautiful. And you can see the host rock in there too, which is a granitoid. This is always a good sign when you see huge pieces of magnetite. Everybody thinks gold is associated with black sand, and that's not true. Gold can be associated with black sand, and it is a good indicator, but that is not a 100% telltale sign that you're gonna find gold. Because I found plenty of gold in deposits that had very little, if no iron whatsoever. So don't get all caught up in thinking that you have to find black sand to find gold. Like I said, it's a good indicator. It's telling you that that's a low spot, a low pressure zone, or a low velocity zone. Oh, and one more thing I have to cover. This soft loamy sand material, I've seen so many videos on YouTube where you've got people finding monster nuggets that are obviously painted rocks inside this loamy sand. You'll never find gold in stuff like this, okay? It's always gonna work its way down to bedrock or some type of false bedrock. It's not gonna be inside this loamy sand. Look at this. This is almost a solid piece of iron, magnetite. that means we're close on the trail. Now, like I said, it doesn't mean there's going to be gold, but when I did the research, it said a lot of the gold was in iron stained quartz. And this is the iron that's going to stain that quartz. So this is a good sign that it's really, really heavy. And the quartz fragments are getting bigger. Look at this. I've got just chunks and chunks of quartz everywhere. Now, this is what would be referred to as bull quartz because there's nothing in it. There's no mineralization, but there's just tons and tons of it everywhere. So I know I'm getting closer and closer. When I find a spot of bedrock, if I can find it, or some kind of impervious zone, I'm going to sample that and then I'll take it back down to the creek. All right, this is as close to bedrock as I'm going to get. I've gone up and down this side tributary. You can see the decomposing granite, which is referred to as saprolite. Now, look at this. You see that? Just gobs and gobs of iron. There's a seam of it right here. Look at that. See it? Right there. And I'm going to sample that. Look at that. Just gobs and gobs of iron. And like I said, I've got this bedrock right here. That's actually not that far down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rake off all the loose flow sand because there's no gold in flow sand. And I'll get all these stones out of the way. And then I'll go ahead and pull a sample and put it in my pack. And then I'm going to go into the next thing you should avoid if you want to be a successful gold prospector and miner. Now here's another thing I wanted to cover with you. You see these rocks on the side? These were put here by humans. This is not by erosion. Somebody stacked these, which means they were digging here. And I don't know how long they've been here, but that's something you should look for when you're using Google Earth, is areas where there's hand stackings on the sides of these old dry washes. That's gonna let you know that somebody was there before you and found gold. And that's a good indicator because a lot of time the gold is continually replenished year after year. And I can see a quartz vein with the float coming down way up on the ridge. And if I get a chance, I'm running up there and sampling. Always bring something with you to put your samples in and keep them divided. I'm only going to be working this area right here. It's the only thing that looks good. So I'm going to dump everything into this backpack. But if I was going to go all over the place, I would bring multiple sample bags. And I'm going to leave a link down below where you can find those sample bags. If you don't like those, go to Lowe's or Home Depot, pick up some sandbags. Got to keep them separate, and you've got to have a marking on them, where they came from, and the date. It's very important. Take photos of everything with your phone, so that way you don't lose it. Because if you find a lot of gold and you can't get back to it, you're going to go crazy, and you'll really have gold fever bad. Now, you've always heard me talk about waterfalls. That's good only if they've got a bunch of rocks in the bottom to trap the gold. Here I've got a cluster of rocks sitting below these large boulders. It's going to act as a natural dump. For the gold to get in, can't get out. Bedrock is right underneath it. That's what you should be looking for too. Do not exceed your limitations, your physical limitations. Anybody who finds gold gets gold fever, and it takes hold of you real strong. Problem is it overrides our logic centers in our brain. And what happens? We go running off in the hills in July and August trying to find the Motherlode because we have a lead from somebody that said there's gold up there. What happens? Person gets up there, get heat stroke. They have to be Metaflight out of here. Know your limitations and only go out during the right time of season and be well prepared and never go alone. I've seen too many guys go out in the field looking for gold. They lose track of time. Next thing you know, they're in the middle of nowhere. They get injured. They sprain an ankle. They can't make it back. And guess what? Nightfall comes quick. Coyotes come in. It's easy pickings for them. Don't let that gold fever override your logic centers. There's going to be some circumstances out there where the gold is not on bedrock. In fact, it's far above bedrock. And this is where meticulous sampling comes in. I've been to a lot of areas in the Motherlode country where the pay layers are about a foot above bedrock. And that's where sampling comes back in. When you start finding gold, localize your layers. Look at them. See if you can distinguish the contact zones. Sample them individually and keep track of what you're finding. Like I said, the gold might be in the very top 1 foot or 2 feet above that bedrock and nothing on bedrock. Inside bends of rivers is a good place for gold to drop out because the velocity of the water drops and it creates a low pressure zone. But once again, like bedrock, inside bends can be overrated. And of course, it all comes down to the type of environment. If it's something deep like this, no inside bends. If it's a wide river, really wide river, yes, inside bends if you can get through the vegetation. And this is where Google Earth and LiDAR is going to help you because it's going to show you the original water course direction. And then you can start trench sampling across that to see where the pay layers are. Yes, it's a lot of work. Gold prospecting and gold mining is a tremendous amount of work. And sometimes it takes years before you find your first gold. But the more you do it, the more experience you get at it. And pretty soon you can go out in almost any location and you'll find gold every time. See that where I have these two arroyos feeding into one? Where they tie in, right there is another place to sample. See that tree right there? That tree shouldn't be there. When you start seeing trees in locations or a lot of brush where there's not supposed to be any, check that area because chances are there's a fault there. And the fault has opened up, it's collected a lot of the soil and it's collected a lot of water. And it's a perfect environment for shrubs and trees to grow. So that's where I'd also check because you might find a very rich existing vein that is just loaded with gold. But be careful because those areas are also good places for rattlesnakes to live because it's the perfect food chain. Huge monsters of quartz all over the place here. And like I said, if I had to guess, it's coming from that outcrop up there on the hill. They say, Jeff, why are you always yelling? Keep in mind, I'm retired Army and I had somebody yelling at me for a very long time. So it just kind of carries over when I give out instructions because that's how I used to receive it. Oh my goodness. That's not bad. All right. Like I said, don't exceed your limitations because gold fever is real. Now in rivers and creeks, you're gonna look for these huge obstructions, but the key to that is that they need to be sitting on top of bedrock. If you can move them out of the way, I guarantee if you're in a gold producing district, you're gonna find gold under these large rocks. But the thing you should avoid is when you come back behind these obstructions and you think, oh, Jeff, this looks like a good spot for the gold to go over. Yeah, but where's it gonna get trapped? There's nowhere for it to get trapped. It might get caught in these roots, and that would be worth prospecting, but there's nothing on this side. There's no bedrock, there's no large boulders. So I see a lot of guys see these big rocks and they're like, oh, I'm gonna dig behind it. No, because the gold has nothing to hold on to it. Gold will hit this, and the water coming over will just burn it right out and boil it right on down. So there has to be something here to stop the gold, okay? You gotta think of in terms of hydrodynamics. Now, one more thing you should avoid, and I see this all the time, is prospectors forget to clean out their pans. They find gold in another location, they put their pan down in their garage, and they forget about it for a month, and they go back out, and they pan, and they say, oh my God, I found some gold. No, you found gold from your last trip. It's so important for you to clean out that gold pan every time. And I mean thoroughly, because the little pieces of gold will literally stick in any kind of grooves that gold pan has, and it won't come out. What I want you to do is I want you to really get in there after every use and just vigorously make sure that it's wiped out 100%. Because there's nothing worse than finding gold in your pan that you thought came from your latest sample when it came from 2 or 3 samples back. Make sure you season your pan. When you first get it, it's gonna have oils from the manufacturer on it. Make sure you get a Brillo pad or some sand and just scrub the heck out of it. Get those oils off because fine gold will float on top of that oily water. I know, enough jaw jacking, Jeff. I wanna see what's inside this 20-pound, feels more like a 50-pounder. When you're in a hurry and you're out here in the field and you're trying to cover as much ground as possible, the best thing to do is to pan it down to a small amount and then start again. Trust me, gold is not coming out of that pan. And you know what? I'm going to make a special video just for all the naysayers out there. They say, oh, Jeff, I think you're too aggressive. The gold's flying out of that pan. All right, let's get on to getting this on. Because I want to know if there's gold in here. And I know you want to know if there's gold in here. But I'm not going to do anything until you smash that like button. Smash it hard! All right. Little at a time, my brother. Little at a time. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Oh. Ooh. I don't know about you, but I'm excited. Get your fingers in there. Knead it up like you're kneading dough. That'll help the process of liquefaction. And liquefaction is part of the process of stratification. I know a lot of $5 words, huh? All right, that's as far down as I'm getting. Then I'll go to the next one. All right, get the rest of it in there. Remember, when you're out sampling in the field, it's all about efficiency. You want to cover as much ground as possible. And you want to make sure you keep notes of everything you find, because you're playing detective. Remember, we're prospectors. We're not gold miners, not yet. We got to find that nice juicy spot. And it may take us 6 months to a year to find that spot. But once you find it, it's your spot. And I'm going to go over into filing claims and looking for these juicy spots here in a second. Come on, baby. Daddy needs a new pair of snake boots. All right, I'm getting down to the nitty gritty, so I'm gonna slow down just a tad. All right, let's see what we got. Because I'm real curious. I am real curious. All right, let's see what we got. I already see black sand. Oh man, lots of black sand, jeez. And like I said, that's not an indicator, so don't get too excited, but come on, give me some. I see lead, tons of lead. That's a no-brainer. Oh, I got gold, Shake it down, Williams wiggle. Oh, that's a lot of gold. Oh, look at that wire gold. Look at that wire. Alabama bump. Look at that. If I can get that lead away. Oh, that's nice. See that wire gold right there? Oh, that's a nice piece of wire gold. And all these other little pieces in here, nice. That's not bad for sampling. And this would be worthy of a claim. And me to go back there with a dry washer, because I'm not hauling this stuff down the hill. Look at that. That is nice. See all the little fines in there? Nice chunks, wire gold. Now, what you want to do is you want to look at that gold up close. You want to get real friendly with it. And you want to say, hey, are you rough and angular? Which it is. And there's little bits of quartz locked into it, which means the host vein isn't far away. Are you seeing this? Nice. And when the host vein isn't far away, oh, that's the stuff dreams are made of. If you can find the original vein that this stuff came out, which is what I'm going to be doing. Now, I know you're saying, Jeff, you said something about finding claims and finding land that's rich. Yes, that's how I found this area, is that you have to go over My Land Matters and you got to painstakingly look at areas that are open for claim. Remember, September 1st was the filing date. So people who might have not wanted to pay the $200 per claim, or they forgot, then you can roll right in and you can snag those claims. You see how that works? All you got to do is check My Land Matters under the BLM status. Look to see if they paid their $200. First, I'd look at the assessment fee. If it doesn't say 2024, then I'd start probing. Then when you think you're on a winner, call BLM and say, hey, is this claim open? Is it been closed out so I can file on it? Ask them right away. If they say yes, boom, get your paperwork in ASAP. And don't tell anybody, okay? I've seen too many guys out there find rich deposits that it's taken them years to find, only to open their mouth because they wanted the bragging rights. And what? Oh, they came in at night and took all their gold. I'm telling you, gold fever is real, and I've seen many men lose a lot of gold because they just had to brag about it. And the last thing you should avoid at all costs is having a negative attitude. I've seen many guys go out in the field and they swear, oh, I'm not going to find gold. There's no gold here. And guess what? They didn't find any gold. Imagine that. But you go out there with a positive, strong attitude, and I've seen guys find gold where it shouldn't be. It always seems to be in the early hours of looking for it, or almost when the day is over. That's a really strange phenomenon. But you got to stay frosty, my brother, and you got to keep that positive attitude. So avoid being a doubting Thomas, because that's a surefire way of not finding any gold at all. But I want to know what you think. Is there anything else you would add to my list of things to avoid if you want to find gold every time? Go ahead and leave your comment down below. We would all love to hear it. And don't forget, at the end of every month, we give away 10 bags of incredibly rich pay dirt from our drift mine, a brand new Gold Monster 1000 metal detector, and this month in September, we're actually giving away 5 gold nuggets and a huge tray of placer gold. And remember, every bag comes with a silver bar. Just click on the little link right here, make a $10 pledge, and you're in like Flynn. And if you want to learn more about how to find gold every time in rivers and creeks, go ahead and watch this video right here, and I'll see you on the next video.